Well, as I told you earlier in this newscast, we now know the identity of the person found in a store chimney in 1989.
Writer Doug Moe has been following this case very closely, having written about it in our sister publication, Madison Magazine. This all started with your writing about it 2 years ago, and you were at this announcement today. So how did that feel?
Surreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got there early. It was down at the police station, 10 o'clock. I got there about 9:30. I walked in. There was only a couple people there, but I look across the room, and there's a picture, you know, and after all this time, all of a sudden there's a face. I didn't see the name at that point, but there's a face to go with this skeleton in the chimney that we've been wondering about for almost 35 years.
Yeah, why do you think it's captured so many people, this long-standing cold case?
Well, the circumstances were so unusual at the time. He was found, the skeleton was found in a chimney in a music store on University Avenue. Back in 1989. The police eventually released some information that although it was a male skeleton, there was feminine clothing, you know, especially all that time ago, that, you know, everybody thought, you know, what the heck on that. And then they just couldn't seem to get any leads. They couldn't get any breaks, and it kept, George Hesselberg, my former colleague at the State Journal, he would write about it each September, because it was September when the skeleton was found, just thinking that somebody somewhere had information and would come forward, and it just never happened. 2 years ago, the editors at Madison Magazine asked me to write about a true crime piece about a cold case, giving me my pick of cases. And I'd written a little about this one, but not a lot. And I thought, well, let's give this a try.
Yeah.
And, you know, I dive in, and unbeknownst to me until I started working on it, but a Madison detective named Lindsay Ludden had actually picked up the cold case, gotten permission to work on it, and there's new DNA technology now. She was hopeful that something could come of it, and lo and behold, this week it did.
And, you know, even though, you know, identity was placed on this, you know, on this remains, you kind of were saying this still is a lot of unanswered questions.
Absolutely. Number one, of course, who's the perpetrator, if indeed it was a homicide, which I think is not 100% sure, but most people believe, who put him in the chimney. So that is still to be worked on. But this is a big first step. You know, it really is. And everyone says, well, it's a long shot to find out who did it. Well, it was a long shot to find out the identity of the guy. So,
well, and as we've reported, it appears that he has children, this person. Do we know if there's any living relatives that people are contacting?
There are. Well, in fact, they had to find the relatives. You know, I should say Detective Ludden worked with the DNA Doe Project, which is an all-volunteer group that does genealogy, forensic, or genealogy, investigative genealogy. And first they sent rootless hair samples that were found with the skeleton to a place called Astria Forensics out in California. They were able to extract the DNA. Then it goes to this DNA Doe Project. They were able to find close, family matches. Then it goes back to the police. They contact the family members and, start putting the pieces together, and they've got their who the skeleton is. Now, the family has requested privacy. That point was made a number of times at the press conference today. But yeah, we know a little about Ronnie Joe Kirk. I still have trying to remember remember the name, but he's from Tulsa, Oklahoma. In his mid to late 40s. Married and divorced twice, father, adopted. That complicated the DNA search. Someone from the DNA Doe Project said that today at the press conference. So they're learning about him. What they want to learn now, of course, is what brought him to Madison, and also other things about his life. So.
I hope any family and friends that are still around, I hope they can get closure with this after all this uncertainty. And thank you very much for being on with us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And you have an updated article. Where can people find that?
Yeah, Madison Magazine's website, madisonmagazine.com, I think it is. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Doug.
Thanks, guys.